All right. Welcome back to the Empowering Minds Mental Health Podcast. Today I am joined by Noel Miller. For the past 15 years, he's been working to connect the dots between different health practices to better understand what truly creates healthy experiences. So today we're going to be talking about doom scrolling. So Noel, at this time, first let me thank you for coming on to the podcast, but
No
I want
problem.
to open up the floor to you so you could tell us a little bit more about what it is that you do.
Yes, like you said, for the past 15 years, I've been kind of connecting the dots when it comes to health. I really found that, if they're all named health, then they should be united in some way. So I've been kind of piecing together how they united, and essentially it comes down to uniting the gaps between mental, physical, and emotional health, and seeing that that creates the healthy environment for the human being to kind of grow in and to move towards their potential.
Thank you. All right, so we're just going to flow right into the questions today. So again, our topic is doom scrolling. So we hear the word stress all the time, but
Mm.
you say it's much more than we think. So, what do most people misunderstand about stress?
I think most people think stress is like a chemical. It happens in the brain and it releases these hormones and it messes up your body. And that's their general idea of stress. However,
Mm,
we can say more realistically, stress is anything that goes against the growth of the individual. So,
mm,
whenever you walk away from health, stress will be caused because, stress is trying to tell us, hey, you're moving away from the healthy environment that supports you becoming a better version of yourself. So, it's a very powerful indicator that we're heading in the wrong direction. We need to turn around and walk more towards the thing that is supporting of us.
interesting, because that was my concept of stress. That's what I thought it was. So I'm glad you
Yes,
spread some education around that, so we will know better what stress really is.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. So with doom scrolling, how does something like doom scrolling fit into the bigger picture of stress on the body?
Yes. So doom scrolling is this kind of almost novel experience of, I call it psycho-emotional issue, right? So what ends up happening is, what's the best way to do it? It is a mindless addiction, would be a good way to put it, in the sense that
Mhm.
it is very addictive. It's not something you think about, but it's continuously taking up that space that would be used for great ideas, for creativity, for personal growth. It blocks you right at the beginning of where you would start to think for yourself. So we have to realize that it is like a genetically modified experience. And the harm it does is it takes away the person's ability to actually think deeply or have personal thought.
Mm,
So your body being missing that piece makes it harder for you to function as a growing human being. So it's kind of like if you're on the phone with somebody back in the day and you'd lose reception, right? It's like,
mhm.
and they say a couple words and it's so annoying to you that you hang up, I can't hear you, and click. So what happens to the brain is it's getting small pieces of information, none of which are actually complete. And therefore, now when it goes to solve a larger problem, it has a whole bunch of incomplete pieces of thought that don't help you overcome a personal growth thing. So anything that happens in real life is not supported by the style of information that the body is taking in. It's kind of the most superficial layer of growth in the sense that it's just new. So the brain picks up on new, but it's not actually giving any nutrition to the mind for it to outgrow any real life challenges. So the challenge with it is the devastation it causes with breaking down the original cycle of mental processing, growth, and promotion of the individual.
Okay. So glad you answered that because I I am guilty. I looked on Facebook one time, and you know how it
Mm-hmm.
kind of gives you like the amount of time that you've spent up there. And I
Mm-hmm.
looked and I was like, oh my God. And I was doing it to the pet, like it impacted my sleep, like I wasn't sleeping well. I guess because with the
Mm-hmm.
the light and stuff, it triggered something in my brain. Hey, I'm up. And so
Yes.
you think about that, like going into a cycle, and it did cause stress in my, I would say more in my brain because I would have like what felt like brain fog. I couldn't focus. I was tired. I was fatigued, but I couldn't pinpoint it until I saw just how much time, just kind of getting caught up sometimes watching like reels or like little short stories. And before you know it,
Yes.
you've watched an hour's worth. And the time went by so fast, I didn't even realize that's what I had done.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting thing because we have to realize that it's a psychologically, mm, genetically modified experience,
Hmm.
right? So, like a group of scientists, a group of people sat down and said, how can we make this very eye-catching, which is really addictive? And so, it's very hard for the average person to go against that amount of psychology in a piece of media.
Hmm.
So if you're able to at least step away from it, that's a good process. If you're mindful
Yeah.
of seeing that that's happening, yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. That it really helped me. It was a eye-awakening moment. So that's when I switched my account from like our like personal account to professional mode. So I would just set like one day to load whatever content I'm going to do for the week. And I may post here and there, but it helped me to just reserve my time for more effective things like exercise, getting outside, those type of things.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
all that good
Oh,
stuff.
yeah. So, I mentioned the word about content. So, what is happening in our brain and in our bodies when we are constantly consuming negative or overwhelming content on social media?
Yes, so kind of going building on what we were talking about before, we're
Mm-hmm.
getting a whole bunch of problems that we can't solve that are generally larger than the person.
Mm-hmm.
So the brain doesn't do good with a lot of not closed ideas, right? It doesn't build anything. So the brain will start to focus on this mm, essentially heightened traumatic situation, right? Because it wants to solve it. How can I do something about this thing? And if we're just consuming it at a high rate, it doesn't ever come to a conclusion. So it's never productive. And the brain will get stuck in the cycle of trying to solve something that's unsolvable. And then this will trigger the hormones and cortisol and heart rate and blood pressure and disordered thinking. And then you're
Mm-hmm.
like, what's happening to me? But it's really because you've been immersed in an unhealthy environment for a long period of
Mm-hmm.
time. And the body's trying to make everything kind of scream to say, get out of this space. We need to do something that's more productive for us.
Yeah. Absolutely. Now, I wanted to ask you something. So, through your journey, you developed the whole life health program, Restoring
Yes.
Therapy. And so, from your whole life health perspective, what would a healthy relationship with technology look like?
It's a very, very good question. Essentially, I have two answers, more or less. One is we have to really look at what is the limitation of technology, right? What is the
Hmm.
boundaries of it? What is the cost of it, let's say, right? Everything has a cost, so what is the cost of technology? And you have to realize that the cost of technology is the lack of human experience, right? So if you're doing
Yep.
something that does it for you or stops you from doing it for yourself, you don't build connections with other people. You
Hmm.
don't build identity. You don't build self-efficacy. Like you didn't do it, so you
Hmm.
you don't actually have those skills, although you saw it, right? And so
Yeah.
it'll start to disorient, the realisticness of something. So if it actually takes 5 years to learn how to paint, you say, well, no, I saw it done in an hour. I should be able to do that. And if you've never had the experience of knowing that it takes 5 hours, this puts a tremendous amount of stress on the brain to try to figure out how do I
Hmm.
solve this problem. And we're going to say, well, I'm not good because I can't do it, but it was never possible in that time in the first place. So
Hmm.
you get stuck in this kind of cycle. So I would say the best way to interact with how we're using technology at the time is to use it only as the check-in. So I want to make a craft. I've already made it. Let me see what other people are doing. Oh, that's interesting.
Hmm.
I could do this with my craft. Or if it's a phone, you say, well, I'm only going to use my phone for the use of an actual telephone, the use of actual pen and paper, the use of actually just connecting with people on the phone to book a
Hmm.
time to actually sit down and talk in person. So if we use it more for those more basic functions, then we still live with the technology. I'd say if there was going to be a good use of technology, it would be one that allows us to hmm, get more information at the level that we're at with our personal
Hmm.
growth. So it gives you information of how to improve your growth, but you still have to do it. And it shuts off as soon as it realizes that you have that actual potential, and now will only give you new information on your next level. That'd be a good way to do it.
Yeah, you've made a lot of good points. I've made a point. Sometimes I'll get on social media, and for people that know me, I kind of cut up, make people laugh sometimes. But for the most part, I try to be strategic.
Mhm.
My content mainly is about mental health, mental wellness. So I try to kind of stick to that because I know once
Mhm.
I post that, I'm getting off, right? And
Yes, yes,
so
nice.
you're talking about with technology. I have a friend, his mother passed away probably about a year ago. And the other day I sat down and I wrote a letter to him and his brother because I wanted to check in. It was like my brain was, you know, I just couldn't believe that I had wrote a letter. I mean, I wrote it like front and back, but it was like refreshing. I mean, I could have typed it up and mailed it off, but I wanted it to be
Yeah.
more personal. And because I hadn't handwritten a letter in so long, I don't think my brain knew. My brain was like going everywhere that I actually sat down, but it made me feel good. Like after I wrote the letter, it was almost like I had a boost in my brain, you know?
Yes, yes, you created something, right? And the kind of
Right.
um, thing that's being suppressed is our own creativity. So the
Hmm.
solution to this challenge would be to be more creative. Although it is kind of highly addictive, it only takes a little bit because nature always has a balance, right? So it'll make it easier for your creativity to be more powerful to you. You will have a very strong experience of being creative. If you can do
Hmm.
exactly, write a note, create something. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be you doing it out of a caring and compassionate space. Mostly is way more powerful to the human being. So I love
That's
that. I love that.
yeah, absolutely. Now, I had mentioned before personally
Mhm.
about how I was like mentally exhausted and I was trying to pinpoint why. So, if someone feels mentally exhausted and they don't know why, what is the first place they should start to try to pinpoint what's going on with them?
I think the first thing to do, if we're taking our model and definition of stress, is to realize that you're walking in a direction that is not supportive of you. You're not doing things
Mm.
that are actually improving your growth. Therefore, the brain is stuck. What most people don't know about mindset is that you're supposed to outgrow your mindset. So last
Hmm.
month, you shouldn't have the same mindset as this month. We should have grown in that time. And
Hmm.
so the body will start to give you the result of being foggy, being mm, not effective. And these are ways of slowing you down to be like, hey, let's reflect. Something's happening. So once we have the sensation of, this doesn't feel right, we already know we're not going in the right direction. Perfect. Now we sit down with some quiet time and we say, well, what have I been doing? And what would I like to do instead? And that
Hmm.
instead really allows you to say, am I even doing any of this? If you loved writing letters and you realize you haven't written one in a year, well, I'm really not doing something that's actually nourishing to me. So now it gives you the
Hmm.
idea of the off and on. We know what it is when it's not what we want. Now we can contrast that and see what we really want. Are we actually
Hmm.
incorporating it into a lifestyle? And as we incorporate these things, we'll start to feel that our mind clears itself. We get more solid on what's actually important to us so that it has meaning and can promote our mental, emotional, and physical attitudes towards being a better version of ourselves.
Okay. All right. So those were all the questions, but I want to highlight a couple of
Yeah.
things. So
Yeah.
you are a TEDx speaker, a lifestyle
Yes.
management coach,
Yeah.
exercise prescription specialist, and you spent 17 years in the health and fitness space. So
Yes.
I want to leave this time for you, if you have any resonating thoughts that you would like to leave with people who will see this later on, if you've written any books, if you would like to share your contact information so people may want to reach out to you for services. I want you to utilize this time. Feel free.
All right. So I have a lot of posts on different aspects of mental, physical, and emotional health on
Mhm.
design.fitness on Instagram. So you can check the latest content there. You can always ask questions, and I'm always happy to create a conversation and add more videos for you guys on that direction. My whole thing, again, is about creating an environment that empowers the individual. We often talk about mental health, but we don't talk about mental nutrition. So, what are we doing to empower the mind? Right? So we often
Yeah.
talk about mental health in the sense of here's the sicknesses that the mind has, but not on what nutrition grows the mind to its potential, which to me
Hmm.
is mental health, the healthy mind. What does the healthy mind look like? So I think that's a very misexplored environment. And even most of the times when people have mental health challenges, it has a lot to do with not being, um, mm, not getting the right feedback from your environment. So you might be functioning on a high emotional level where you're seeing lots of beautiful things, but you have nobody to share that with, nobody to confirm that that's happening. And so
Hmm.
we lose that framework of seeing our own beauty, our own positivity, what we can actually do. And that puts pressure on the brain because now we're in a spot where the brain's not growing. We're just kind of continually doing the same pattern, and we get bored, and we get dispassionate, and we get frustrated, and we get disconnected. These are all things of the mind not moving towards its potential. So I think when it comes to mental health, as what you do, it's very important to kind of champion this side of looking at mental health.
Right. So again, I want to thank you for coming on. Um, this has been a great podcast because you actually touched on the education. You actually touched on some stigmas too when you talked about the true meaning of what stress is, because I really thought that's what stress was. So I thank you again. The a podcast, the Empowering Minds Mental Health Podcast, is I strategically named it that because I want to encourage and empower other people through podcasting. So again, thank you for your help in helping me to do that today.
Thank you for having
All
me.
right. You take care, and I'll be in contact with you soon.
All right.
All
Ciao.
right.